But you are saying we're going to use these funds, these savings to finance, but you are loading the money up front. So you're borrowing, you got to borrow. So I think that both Minister Strong and Minister Blackman either didn't understand what they were telling us or they were trying to be disingenuous by spending a lot of time attacking the previous administration and saying things that were not true. But I'm not going to be, I don't have the time to make those
Right.
corrections, but I will at some point. I
Yeah.
was very
But
happy to see, yeah, Glyne.
no, yeah. Might I intervene here?
Sure,
I don't know you understand why I describe this
three card.
thing as three cards. Too many moving parts, moving too fast. You don't know who, what is what, and that is compounded by the fact that I recall it. There was a previous loan which had variable interest rates, and the government admitted that they didn't know that the interest rate were variable, so,
IMF.
or even what variable meant, right? So how do you know? In addition, the PM herself has admitted in a criticism of the IMF that they have Barbados has found itself borrowing to pay back loans.
But this is exactly what is happening because you see, they like to bamboozle people with, they usually say bamboozle, I would say with BS. Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry, but for them, because they can't bamboozle me. I know a little bit about finance. I had an interest at one time in accounting. I served as a director of two commercial banks and as president of a credit union. So when it comes to these things, I have to have some basic knowledge. And to be quite honest, I am offended by people who try to confuse. This is serious business. This is serious business, and members of cabinet, ministers of government should be in the business of explaining rather than obfuscating. That's what they're doing. They're making a hash of the thing, and trying to dismiss people who ask serious questions.
Yeah.
Now, so I think at the end of the day, Marcia, what I really want to say here that this is a complex issue which can be explained in simple language, in honest language, which would allow people to understand the objective to my mind. And you would have heard me speak on this already, that sometime in the past, when we were approached by the government of China to borrow large sums for infrastructure, and we say to them, as a heavily indebted country, and I got together with some of my colleagues from CARICOM, if you are really interested in helping us, you would finance this thing in a two-step process where you would facilitate the repayment of a higher cost debt. And then because you're offering concessionary terms, you do it in a way that we are able to set aside the savings and so on. But these ones are coming with some serious conditions. And my concern is that it is also coming against the background of what I would call an exponential increase in foreign currency borrowing at a time where, notwithstanding what I read in terms of the performance and the projections for tourism, Barbados has not been a shining star when we look at how the region has recovered from tourism.
Correct. That
You
is
know,
Um,
that is correct.
and so and yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
Yeah, if I could just, Anthony Wood, I believe he wrote a very good article, and I'm also looking for the article from the other economists to read as well. He's saying here
I
it is
have Justin's
expected,
article.
Anthony Wood is saying it is expected that there will be a mismatch between the stream of interest savings that you were speaking of, Ms. McLean, through the deal and the financial requirements of the projects that are going to be identified to be funded by the 140 million in interest savings. So he's saying that there will be a difference there.
Of
That
course.
is, the annual saving in interest payments will be less than the annual financial requirement for some projects in the early stages of the project cycle. Then you're talking about the capital investments, etc.,
Yes.
etc. Therefore, other sources of funding will be required to advance the projects given the limited financial space currently available to the government. So, guys, listen, important, and it's good to hear all sides. And this is just adding to what Miss McLean was saying. These options include new taxation measures, and more borrowing. So think about it. Think about it. In both cases, Barbadians will be affected financially as a result of the debt swap. It is also useful to note, Mr. Anthony Wood says, that the features of the new loan represent an implicit payment by Barbadians. These are the upfront costs, including legal and agency fees,
Right, right.
totaling about US quarter million, along with recurring agency fees. Another potential charge to Barbadians arises from the failure of the government to meet the sustainability performance targets in the loan agreement. The
Mm-hmm.
penalty is it's small, but it's a 0.2% per annum for non-achievement. Taken in its entirety, the loan for climate deal will be beneficial to Barbadians once the government adheres resolutely to its commitments, especially in relation to the execution of the identified projects and achievement of the sustainability performance targets. And this is written by Anthony Wood. And we know, looking at previous projects, what has happened, the cost overrun.
Exactly.
We know, we the public, we are not stupid, as Ms. McLean is saying. We understand certain things. And we've seen, certain operations. We've seen how they have managed various projects, and
Exactly.
and and so this is why we needed more time to discuss this. And before Mr. Murray comes in, what I want to say to Barbados, this is why I say this, guys. It is so important that we have a strong opposition. It is so important that we never, guys, put give any party 30 or 30 seats. You need a strong opposition inside Parliament, in the Senate, so that these things can be aired out, discussed. This should take much more than two sittings, than one sitting. One sitting of Parliament. You can correct me, Miss McLean, if I'm wrong. One sitting of the Senate.
But the truth is, Marcia, in the Senate, one person spoke. I do not think that Senator Cummings spoke to the bill. She rose on a point of order and launched into a speech. But she, as far as I recall, if I am wrong, somebody can correct me. She did not speak. The only person who spoke to that bill in the Senate was the person who introduced it, which would have been Senator Blackman. Then on the other side, the opposition senator spoke, and between the two of them, Senator Drakes would have spoken, and she did an excellent speech, and she addressed some other very critical issues. And I'm happy that you'll be touching on that, because she is looking beyond the borrowing to what you're saying you're borrowing for, and all that can lead to the kind of problems that you just raised about it, ensuring that the project is successful, etc. And so, but the reason I discovered the reason, Glenn, I'm going to stop and let you speak. The reason I discovered it, that because I was trying to understand why it was treated in such a cavalier manner by the other senators and members of the House. But clearly, the government has signed an agreement already on this matter. We've seen the 47 page, and I recommend, and I'll tell you where to find it. I'll send a note to Dave and he can put it
And you
up
can put it in the
on
chat
how,
where
so
they
how
can
you can
find it.
find
Yes.
it. And so at the end of the day, they probably figure this is a done deal, and half of them probably don't even understand. They probably have not even taken time to understand what it's all about. But let me let Glenn make the
Yes.
point.
Go ahead, Mr. Murray, before we move to the next segment.
Yeah, thank you again, Maxine. I I listened to most of the debate from the House, and I found that and some from the Senate, but I found the government continues to be disrespectful, uncooperative, insensitive, don't care about giving public information. Even when uh, leader of the opposition, Foreign Rose, spoke about the lateness, the no notification, and asked the question. There was no interjection by the leader of the House or whoever to say, well, to explain why it might have been late, why he did not get it. It's just treated as though these things did not matter. And then you go to the Senate, and then you spoke with Minister Blackman. I'm very disappointed in and for Minister Blackman. Minister Blackman was a former parish ambassador in the community independence celebration. It was clear that he had some skills and some abilities, and we were expecting him to do well. But I'm sorry to see that he has come as a young man, should be fresh with ideas, a fresh approach. He's fallen right into the old belaboring political rhetoric and behaviors that cannot take him anywhere. So I'm not getting out of him what I think what he used to have or what he thinks he should have. I think he's being too narrowly political. Maybe he thinks he has to do that because he's supposed to replace Minister, Edmund Hinkson in St. George. But he is not doing himself or Barbados any justice by going this narrow, going back 10, 15 years and rehashing a lot of old, tired, outdated rhetoric that make no difference now to people's lives. So I'm saying he's just wasting people's time, and he's not doing his image and his reputation any good. As a future candidate, I think he should be more progressive, forward thinking, expansive, showing it, contrasting himself between himself and the old guard, or if you want to talk about, make a name for and uplift the Senate. But right now, is it listening to the backbench of the House of Assembly?
Thank you so much, Mr. Murray. I'm just here looking at Dr. Ferdinand Nichols' comments, and he was saying that it's a total disrespect of the Barbadian public. And I'm going back again at this makeup of the Parliament, how the Parliament is made up, Mr. Murray. And there's a reason that they're doing this, because they know they will bring they're going to bring the resolution, but they know it's going to be passed, and then probably that is why that 47-page document, Ms. McLean, was already signed, because there's not Mr. Thorne alone cannot stop it. The two senators can't stop it. So there's a disregard for the opposition, and this is what I am saying to Barbadians. And if we could just understand that we have to look beyond politics, and this is why people like myself, and when we started this show, and we heard that Mr. Thorne was crossing, myself, Caswell, and all of us, we said we're going to support Mr. Thorne, because we understand that he's not able, Mr. Murray, to do it all in there, and they know that. So something as important as this for concerning Barbadians, that it's going to affect us, and they would have signed it. It appears, let me say, it appears that this document was signed already. They've already done it. It appears to us. They need to now come and say Ms. McLean is wrong, right? But it appears from what she's presented there, and that's why I say to Barbadians, when you see us on the show, and we are supporting the opposition senators, let's not be partisan and say we are supporting the DLP. It is important, because when we put our voice behind theirs and echo what they're saying, or sometimes lead them to what they need to do in the Senate and in the lower house and the upper house, that's when we get the results. Look at what happened with the cybercrime bill. Look at what happened. And that is why it is important. I'm going to use this as a teachable moment for us. Don't you feel disrespected that they would come with a con artist as a 3-man con card, as Mr. Murray, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, and
three card man,
and bring this for discussion that was already signed. Government, was it really already signed? Is this how you disrespect the people of Barbados?
Marcia, the reality is that there are times when government will make decisions which are ratified. So in other words, but they make it clear that we have done this for these reasons, whatever the case may be. For example, usually you might find in a budgetary presentation, the Minister of Finance may stand up and say, as of midnight tonight, something goes into force. And that is supposed to benefit the consumer, let's say, or maybe even a tax, it may be, But the point is they are doing it for some immediate reason, but they will come back and ratify it. But the process is explained. But what you had was people coming in and trying to make it sound as though this is a very simple matter. It is not complicated. It's not going to cost you a cent. whatever the case may be, then, what if the conditions that they agree to are not met? I don't think it is only a 0.2% of an, what does that convert into? What happens, if you don't have the cash flow to repay? Because you see, when I looked at this, my conclusion was, you know what? In the debate, they have given us half the story.
Right.
You've dealt with the local part of it, but why have you gone this route? To what effect? What will happen after you've done that? Because you say you're entering into a swap, with this whole question of the environment and whatever. What does that mean? What are the specific projects? I mean, for example, when they got into talk about the whole issue of wastewater, etc. I mean, there are a whole set of questions in there. They didn't come back and say, look, we have prepared a presentation on this, or we're going to take you through a series of explanations, or that you have 28 persons in Parliament. Each of them could get up and make a few points relevant to the whole picture. No, they sat down like sheep, Marcia, that are
Uh, um,
missing, and
Martha,
said, yes, Glenn, sorry.
yeah, I think, but as I reflect on past BLP governments and past Barbados Labour Party leadership, I think what we are witnessing is the paucity of economic skills in our government. So I think it is beyond the capacity and the training of most of them to grasp, to deal with the complexities in the way it should be done. So they look for simple ways to get rid of it as fast as possible. And other people who are more schooled and deeper schooled then come up with the complications, the complexities and the dangers and whatnot. First of all, you have to remember the Prime Minister is not, she's minister for that, but
Yeah.
she's not an economist. I am not an economist either, but I know he did 101 at KFM with um, Maxine's brother and Frank Haley. I want to sorry, right? And therefore, the tendency then to say it in a very simplistic manner and only go because beyond what you think can get it solely identity and leave the rest for themselves. But again, I said I am worried, I'm concerned because the Prime Minister, the government admitted that it did not know about variable interest rates. And those are basic things, what it means or understand it. And therefore, we don't know what surprises there might be lurking beneath the surface in these things as you
That's
go
true.
as you operationalize it, etc. And also,
Exactly.
I'm concerned about the South Coastal part because I don't know. There were some errors. There were some people who found some flaws when the South Coastal part was being built, and the principal persons involved did not pay heed to the criticisms and the suggestions, and the faults reoccurred. And then you remember that there were some people who were on that defective project came back and were consultants when they had the other project. And so therefore, you might be just be going in circles,
Yeah.
recircling inefficiencies and whatnot. And I think that Dr. Jakes, and by the way, she's not an honorary doctor. She's not a
She's
honorary doctor.
PhD, and
She's
she
an
got
earned
special,
PhD doctor, right? So
and
she's
she was
a proper
special,
doctor,
yes,
a proper doctorate,
special
PhD. Right?
recognition for her work. I try to remember the exact title, I mean the exact term, but I want to
Yeah.
say this though, Marcia, because
Yeah, but real quickly because I need
yes,
to
I'm
go to
just saying that in
Senator
terms,
Dr. Joe.
I will not give the 28 people, because I include Mr. Strawn in this, who's an economist, an excuse. One of the things that they could do is something we did. You have a serious paper like this, you bring the technocrats, they sit down with you in cabinet, they explain it. In fact, before they got to cabinet, we had a committee where we sat down, we explained it, we went to cabinet, explain it, and you go to parliamentary group and you discuss
Right.
these things so that you understand. I mean, everybody may not know all the technical nuances of interest rates, and I mean, and if you got a bank account, you better know these things. If you got a mortgage, but anyhow, my point is preparation and respect for the people of Barbados to prepare properly would allow people to be able to speak to this. You understand? But people have abdicated their responsibilities. to their constituents and to the people of Barbados. And you know, when they're not referring to what the Prime Minister said, they ain't saying anything at all.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
Maxine, if I may just add
Hold a
quickly,
second, Mr. Murray. Let's just
last,
go to Senator Dr. Drake's
okay.
Dave, and what we're gonna do is we're going to just listen to a couple minutes of it. I do encourage everybody,
Listen
guys.
to
It's
all.
required listening. It's required listening. Senator Dr. Drake's it's required listening. Everybody, please, I would love for us, to just be going through this little by little. And so let's just listen to her now, and then we're going to do some discussions and so on. Go ahead, Jay.
But, sir, as good as the policy innovation may be and the resolution before us, and I do agree, there are more details that need to be shared. There are some other issues that I want to ventilate. The first, Mr. President, is the South Coast sewage plant and the Bridgetown sewage plant serves 3%, just 3% of the population. I see some looks like, is that true? Based on the data, that's based on the data. 3% of the population. Sir, with this current upgrade and all of the effort that government is putting into this agreement, why haven't we heard how many more Barbadians will be served based on the upgrade to really give it value for money for Barbadians? So you're moving from 3% to 5% of the population, 10% of the population. What is the level of increase in terms of service this upgrade will bring to the population of Barbados? Mr. President, in addition to that, if we are moving to tertiary level treatment, let us know, in addition to that, how it is going to augment the water supply. That is the type of debate that I want to have around this resolution, Mr. President, because if we are not clear on how it directly impacts people or how it directly impacts the water supply in real numbers and in real terms, then we're getting lost in translation as we discuss this resolution, Mr. President. The second thing I want to raise is which institution will manage the operations of this upgraded treatment plant? We have a service provider, Mr. President, the Barbados Water Authority, that by all accounts, I will say they're trying their best, but overstretched, dealing with just the day-to-day operations of water provisioning. We can all see it across Barbados. Burst pipes can't get fixed. You call them 2 and 3 times, nobody don't answer the phone, and you hear the barrage of complaints, Mr. President. In addition to operational challenges that the Barbados Water Authority seems to have, administratively, they also seem to have bottlenecks and challenges. Because to date, you can't get any updated, audited financial statements out to the service provider. So if the day-to-day management of water resources has the service provider stretched, then who is dealing with this brand new spanking tertiary level treatment plant on the South Coast to ensure that the savings that are supposed to be upward to 300 million Barbados dollars is well spent and managed? That is a question, Mr. President, because we construct it, we get the savings, and we go into construction, and we break ground, and we go on CBC, and we shake hands, and we are well on our way. Mission transformation. But after the construction, there needs to be management, and somebody needs to operate it and maintain it. And that is where we fall down all the time. Maintenance, Mr. President. But I go even further. The honorable member who led the debate, and I agree with him, this plant is not 5-year, 10-year project. It is for 30 years. Who is overseeing the long-term plan of wastewater in Barbados? Given the facts that I stated earlier as it relates to the climate crisis and water resources, there has to be some type of long-term plan. I heard mention of a master plan, a 30-year master plan, but who then is dealing and managing and overseeing and enforcing that plan? Those are the questions that we have to ask and get right. Because on the front end, we have the savings and we're going to make the upgrade, and that is fantastic. Fantastic. But it is the operationalizing of these things, Mr. President, and the technical capacity to do it. Especially when things start to go wrong, how do we pull back? Where are the guardrails? How do we ensure that we stay on the right course? And it becomes even more curious because a committee was mentioned earlier in the debate. I believe it was a water resilience committee that the Honorable Senator mentioned earlier. We passed an act in this chamber last year. Water Reuse Act 2023 was proclaimed the 5th of June 2023, Mr. President. That act makes provision for a committee as well, a wastewater committee. Is the Water Resilience Committee and the Wastewater Committee the same people, or is it a subcommittee of who is responsible for the long-term planning? Because when you have too many people responsible for something, everybody passes the baton and nobody becomes accountable.
Okay, let's take a pause. We're just gonna pause right there, and I really think that this, what I want to say before we start the discussion, I want to encourage those that are watching. You are part of this discussion as well. I want you to make your comments in the chat about what you have just heard here this evening. Just a few minutes of our presentation. Again, I'm going to say it to every Barbadian, listen to me. Whether you're watching it live or you will watch it later, go to the Parliament YouTube channel, find this, put in your headphones, please, and listen. This is required listening. I'm serious about it. And the last thing I say before we start to open for discussion, I want to say, notice, this young lady is not representing any party. Am I correct in saying that, Ms. McLean?
Yes, she's an independent senator.
Independent senator. She's an independent, and I'm being very, very. I know that's the answer, but I want us to really think about this, guys, because we get so partisan. We get so partisan about things. What she's doing there is what she's supposed to be doing, and she's going to bat for us, and we have to support her. And in the same way you support the opposition senators, you support the lawyer, the leader of the opposition. I'm going to keep saying that because we have to educate ourselves and get away from partisan politics so that we can fully embrace the full debate and get the best for Barbados. Okay, all right. Enough said about that. Let me first go to the comment sections, guys. So we want to get everybody involved in this, okay? So let's hear what people are saying. Miss Electronic Crazy says yes. Who is responsible for the long-term planning? And she's saying yes, and like she's totally agreeing, right? Sharon says, I've always wondered what gives the government the right to make plans for so many years. Well, they're the government, and so they govern. The issue is getting all, having all the information and being able so you can strategize and plan long term. You've done the research and you have looked at all sides. Kim says dog committee, cat committee, sheep committee. Oh Lord.